Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. You're watching the Southern Cross ESports Winter Series, the 6th round of the championship at Phillip Island. We've got a championship to just about conclude here, and it has been quite the season so far. Can't wait to see how this race at one of Australia's most iconic circuits ends up working out. And you'll see it all live here on SimSpeed TV on YouTube, Facebook, and Kick. Myself, Reese Gardner, in the commentary box with Jay Kennedy handling production, and also joining me in the commentary box as well. Jay, Phillip Island is one of the circuits that we most enjoy here at SimSpeed. It's where we had our first ever broadcast, and it has been a part of the Australian sim racing scene for about as long as anyone can remember.
Bathurst might be the spiritual home of Australian motorsport, but this is the spiritual home of Australian iRacing because, as you said, we've had it for forever. One of the first tracks to be released on iRacing full stop, let alone an Australian track, the first of when it was released back in early 2010. And it's been a key part of the iRacing service ever since. Absolutely brilliant circuit, and it always provides brilliant racing because it's just one of those circuits where everything can happen, does happen, just has a beautiful flowing nature to it. Provides spectacular action each and every time you see racing here.
That it does, and you can see from the track map just why this track is so iconic. It's fast. It's got so many long, flat-out sections, long and flowing bends too, a couple of heavy braking zones at Miller and MG, but pretty much every corner around this track is a passing opportunity. Got to be careful on lap 1 coming into Dewan Corner and the Southern Loop as well, because you'll catch the grass and you might end up going across the track. Hopefully we don't see that tonight.
Yeah, fingers crossed we don't see anyone go way too hot through turn 1, but we often do, which is something drivers will have to be a little careful. Probably see 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide down the front straight, but there is a little bit where the track narrows up just before turn in at turn 1, so drivers will have to be careful there. Turn 4, of course, is the action corner, but turn 10, section through 8, 9, 10, definitely my favourite part of this track. The run through Hayshed, absolutely flat out and committed. Lukey Heights, trying to find the limit of grip. And then the downhill braking zone at MG, absolutely incredible section of track. Cannot wait for this race.
Yeah, me either. And of course, Southern Cross ESports used to run the Porsche 911 RSR, but this season they're running the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup, which is a bit of a different beast as far as racing is concerned. We'll get more into that when we see the cars out on track. First of all, we have to keep an eye out on these championship standings because Trevor Leonard and Ben Breyer are neck and neck just about for the title.
It's extremely close for those top four, isn't it? It's, 33 points separating the top four, and then go back to 5th and 6th, and there's 1 point separating those guys. So there's battles for the championship top 10 the whole way up and down the list, which is great, which is what we want to see the whole way to the end of the championship. Sure, we're into the second half, but it's nowhere near settled. Anyone in that top 6 could still win it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're so close. I mean, we see Kuznetsov and Mazomo, the 9.5 SimSport teammates, on equal points coming into this round. And Kuznetsov, ever since he entered this championship, has been pretty dominant. He won Road America by a country mile last round 3 weeks ago. Be interesting to see if he can do the same tonight, especially since he's already topping the qualifying session.
Yeah, and remember, he's actually on that points haul being 1 round less than everyone else as well, so he's probably favourite to win the championship, but we've seen it in many series before. Strange things can and possibly will happen.
Indeed, especially considering the format. Of course, Southern Cross Esports has a 2-race format with a sprint and a feature. 20-minute sprint for race 1, no required pit stop, but there is a required pit stop in race 2. You have to take all 4 tyres in your visit to the pits. Pit window opens with 5 minutes elapsed and closes with 5 minutes to go. Also, the top 12 results from race 1 are reversed for the race 2 grid. If you win race 1, you'll be starting in the mid-pack, and if you finish 12th, you've got yourself a pole position.
Yeah, we've seen how much of a curveball that's been throughout the series, this one and previous seasons of Southern Cross Esports. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that does play out and how it does affect the drivers tonight. Fingers crossed it turns into an absolute spectacular, because it often does.
That it does. And we see Rick Kuznetsov here on either a cooldown lap or an out lap. I'm not quite sure as things stand, but demonstrating the elevation changes around Phillip Island, and of course he is on top at the moment by 0.2. It is currently a 9.5 SimSports 1-2, and well, it remains to be seen whether or not anyone can break that stranglehold they have. Kuznetsov getting this hot lap off to a bit of a slow start there. Had to let a few drivers by, and I think that's killed his run out of the final corner. But I don't think he needs to worry too much. He's got a good margin on provisional pole position, and at the moment, I'm not seeing anyone just about getting close to that time set by the 888. Car number 5, Ben Breyer here, is second in the championship to Trevor Leonard. Currently, a few places ahead of Leonard there, about 6 positions to be exact. So at the moment, it's looking like advantage Ben for the championship.
Yeah, and we don't know exactly whether they'll be fighting for first or for second based on how the championship's looking at the moment, but either way, it's that's committed from Breyer, and that's going to absolutely kill that lap.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Ben. He won't get an opportunity to improve on that lap. Only got 7 minutes to go in the qualifying session, and because it's a heat format, there is a hard cut to the end of the qualifying session. You won't be able to finish the lap you're on if you start it just before the timer hits 0. Greg Levine, meanwhile, in car 93 on a lap at the moment. Let's see if he can improve on 17th spot. He's got a bit of time to make up versus Nathaniel Coburn, 0.8 to be exact. We'll see if he can match that coming through these last couple of corners. A little bit wide at the penultimate one, though. I think that would have cost him.
See if the lap is good enough. As you said, a 33.9. I think he might get a little bit of improvement, but it won't be very much. Oh, just missed out by 10th.
Oh, yeah, only just. And that would have been down to running wide in the second to last turn here. that can end up costing you. It's a turn that you should be accelerating through all the way, and if you have to back out, if you run wide, then it costs you a lot. Simon Mizomo coming up to the start of a hot lap now. See if he can get any closer to his teammate Rick Kuznetsov, having to take a bit of avoiding action there at the end of the straight. Of course, Phillip Island's pit exit is always a point of contention.
It is. We will see it in use later on too, but the reason it is a bit of a contentious point is that there's two actual exits. There's the motorcycle and the car exit. The car exit does sort of plonk you out in the middle of the racing line, but it does seem to be a little bit safer. What you'd think would be the safer one, which is the motorcycle one, which puts you out in the middle of the outside of turn one, actually does turn out to be a little bit more dangerous because you're going at a slower pace through the exit of a corner that is very, very fast, and it does lead to a few incidents. So yeah, we did see Mizomo there abandon his lap. Trevor Leonard is on his at the moment, though.
Yes, indeed he is. Can he improve on 14th spot as things stand? Well, 29.3 in the first sector. That seems reasonably competitive for my money. Flat out on the run through Hayshed and Lukey Heights. Let's see if he manages to keep the front end planted through here. It's so difficult coming over the crest. Got to keep it tight on the way into MG and widen the corner as much as you can. Seems he is building up to that exit out of the penultimate corner. Doesn't quite hook up the apex. He was a quarter of a car width off there as Kuznetsov goes ever faster. 129.9 at the moment. That is going to be even harder to beat. And Leonard comes to the end of the lap now. It doesn't look like this is... no, unfortunately, that doesn't improve as much as he would want, but does bring him closer to the top 10.
Yeah, it definitely brings him a little bit closer. Got 19 drivers tonight, all 19 have done a time. 18 of the 19 are out on track at the moment. Anthony Jewell, the only driver not on circuit at this stage. Jackson Pringle looks like he's on a decent lap at the moment. If we can get to his lap, because this looks like it could be a good one. A very, very good first sector for him.
Yeah, 29.7 and P6 at the moment in the qualifying running. Not too far off Anthony Jewell. All he needs is a 10th, but
abandoned it just as I talk up his lap, as always. Is that like a commentator's curse, just a different sort?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there's multiple ways that we can curse drivers, isn't there? As we see Kuznetsov trying to come to the end of this second lap on the run now. He set that 29.9 on the last lap. Can he improve here? No, he's outside the bracket there, 131.5. So I think we might still see him improve just a little bit on the way through to the checkered flag. Clint Harvey, meanwhile, 131.2. He is a sight off the time that he set, 1 minute 30.98. How can Mike Holcroft do? He's got damage. That's not going to help.
No, that's definitely going to hamper his ability to get this lap done quickly, but he hasn't got time to go and reset. He's got damage to the front of the car and the side of the car, so I'm guessing he's had impact with someone out on track. You don't really find walls anywhere around Phillip Island. And if you do, your car's usually not in a state that it can be driven back to the pits.
Yeah, well, see if Holcroft can hold on for a lap at this stage, or if he decides to bring it back in. 2 minutes left in qualifying, and I would say if you're in his position right now, you would have to stay out for any chance at getting a better time on the board, because once he goes back into the pits, he will not be able to come back out and set a lap. One lap here takes about 1.5 minutes, and we are rapidly approaching that left in the session, and well, that's going to do it. He's definitely not going to improve on that time now.
No way he can improve on that one. Even if it was faster, it wouldn't count. Trevor Leonard's on a decent lap here. He's a little bit further down than I would have expected, though. 12. He's struggling to get the car hooked up. Doesn't look like he's running completely confident tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be what's been happening to Trevor Leonard almost, for a lot of the season, in fact. The last couple of rounds, I only came in from Road America, so it was interesting to see that Trevor was as far down in terms of pace as he was. So I'm not too sure what's going on there. He might just be taking it easy, trying to minimize the damage. But yeah, with under a minute remaining and setting that time, he's not going to improve. Alex Newton, meanwhile, putting him down.
Yep. It's hurt him, so he's back to 13th. One thing we will say about Trevor Leonard, maybe not best in qualifying, but his race pace is always very, very good. So we'll no doubt see him pop along, gain spots throughout the racing. These guys here, Harvey and Pringle, they won't get back to the start-finish line in time, so they look like they may be done. Dean Hunt still going, but no, he's done as well. Into the pits he comes. Holdcroft with that horrible run out of the final corner on the previous lap, if he'll be able to finish this lap with a decent time. Just ahead to Dale Atkins, our newest driver to the series. Out lap for him.
Yeah, and well, the session is about to end. So that means that as things stand, that's going to be the end of it for the drivers involved in this qualifying session as we get ready to go to the grid for our first race. 20 minutes, an out-and-out sprint. It is going to be headed up with a top two, lockout. Front row by Rick Kuznetsov and Simon Mazzomo. They are looking resplendent at the front of our field. Harry Dodds and Clint Harvey will line up third and fourth. And then we have Michael Holdcroft starting P5, Anthony Jewell in P6. And then we have Jackson Pringle starting seventh alongside Frogleap's Mike Pepper, with championship protagonist Ben Braga starting alongside Jesse McMenamin to round out the top 10. It's Alex Newton and Kurt Rose who round out the top 12. And then Trevor Leonard starts lucky 13th alongside John O'Kiley. Then Dean Hunt and David Hughes will share the 8th row of the grid. Nathaniel Coburn is going to start alongside Greg Levine. They are 17th and 18th. And then we have Dale Atkins and Alex Zani rounding out our 20-car field for this one. Full pace lap here, Jay. We can get a very close look at Phillip Island from here.
100% we can. One of the best tracks in the world, not just Australia, but the world for sure. We love this place. And as you said before, almost 12 years ago, this was the location of SimSpeed's very, very first broadcast. Trivia for you. Do you know who won the very first broadcasted race?
Was it Richard Hampstead?
No, it wasn't. No. Someone a little bit more famous.
Mitch McLeod?
Even more famous.
All right. SVG.
SVG won the first ever broadcast race.
There we go. Well, you definitely get a feeling for my personal knowledge of this broadcaster's past there. I think it might just be the lack of sleep getting to me, but it's awesome to see that drivers like Shane Van Gisbergen have been around iRacing for as long as they have, and SVG's definitely put his sim experience to good use in the real world, hasn't he?
I think he might get somewhere one day, that SVG bloke. I reckon he might do all right. There's another bloke that used to race with us back in those days too that's done all right with himself. Scott McLaughlin, I think his name was. I think he used to go all right. And the sim, he used to come and join us in commentary back in the day too, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe he did, and apparently he's going all right in some open wheeler series in America.
Redacted
Quite
car.
sure. Yes. We'll have to keep a close eye on Scotty Mack to see how his career
Bit of an
burgeons.
up-and-comer, that kid.
Yep, just a little bit. You know, I heard some sort of rumor that he'd won 3 championships in some Australian racing series, but I'm not quite sure what that means.
Anything we would have in Australia, does it?
Nah. I mean, who would want a 1.5 ton V8 rear wheel drive race car? It's just not proper, is it?
Correct. not a Porsche. We don't care tonight. I tell you what, this series has been really good to watch. We've talked about it. I think every single race we've ever broadcast in this series. That these races are always spectacular. Race 2 just has something about it where it just breeds action from nowhere, and we don't even know how to explain how it's happened. It just think that the race has turned to a little bit of a lull. We can get our breath back, and then all of a sudden things just unload.
Yeah, that's been a real pattern in Southern Cross Esports, hasn't it? I mean, the Formula V series they run, of course, sanctioned by Formula V Australia, has certainly been non-stop action all the way through every single round. But this one, it's a bit more for the thinking man, isn't it? You have these opportunities to just suss out how the strategy is going to go, who's coming up, who's falling down, and then all of a sudden everything gets turned on its head in the dying minutes of the race. Well, we're coming up to the end of the formation lap now, and Kuznetsov has become accustomed to leading, and by a long way too. It's all going to come down to the start from here.
Sure, they'll be communicating with each other and understanding when the right time to jump is as well. Being teammates, they would have discussed when they're going to jump. They'll be telling each other when the right time to go is. I know that Mazomo and Kuznetsov have both worked very, very hard together, so I'm sure that they'll be communicating and working on when to get the jump done right. Your check's up, ready to go.
All right, when does Kuznetsov put the power down? He has the inside line for turn 1. Wait for the call of the green flag, and we are away. It's not as big of a jump from Kuznetsov, and as I was thinking, Mazomo immediately falls into line behind his teammate as they make their way to turn 1 for the first time. Harry Dodds defending the inside from Clint Harvey, and they make contact. Clint just about heading off the circuit, but manages to gather it up. He has lost another place from that. Anthony Jewell now up into P4.
For the most part, though, relatively clean, is just running off the circuit there. Rick Kuznetsov just running into the dirt, flipping the grass. Clint Harvey trying to come back, but he's going to have to do it the long way through Miller Corner.
Oh, that's very deep there from Clint, and he's gone off. That's unfortunate there. And it looks like there's been a crash behind him as well. Multiple cars involved, splayed across the runoff area. Kurt Rosa being one of them, and it's gone on further. Looks like Dale Atkins and the number 93 of Greg Levine coming together. We'll have to dissect that at some point, but the racing continues further up the field. Kuznetsov already building a gap from Mazomo, as desperately now Harry Dodds is trying to hold on to the front end of that car, running very wide through Lukey Heights.
Yeah, he struggled to hit the front of the car planted and didn't almost ran it off the circuit. Didn't run it off the circuit, but almost ran it off the circuit. He didn't manage to hold on, but that would have hyperheated the tyre a little bit too, so Dodds may be starting to struggle with some front grip throughout the next lap or so. See how he does holding on, but we are through lap number 1. Second lap. Going to be interesting. See how things do play out.
Yeah, so at the moment, the gap is half a second in favour of Rick Kuznetsov. Most of the field falling into single file running, but of course, things may very well heat up in the next few minutes as more drivers try to stake their claim for positions. Clint Harvey running off the track again. He's having a lot of trouble with the front end of that car. It is a fixed setup they run in this series, so there's not much the drivers can do about car behavior that's not to their liking, but I'm a bit flummoxed there with Clint Harvey dropping down as far as he has. On one lap pace, he was right up there at the top, but it just seems that once it's gotten into race conditions, he's fallen off.
Yeah, he's not coping too well with either the pace or the intensity of the race, or there's something just in the way that the car's behaving that's not his liking. We're going to replay of that big incident at turn 4 on lap 1 in just a moment as well, because a little bit to dissect, but I think it's pretty clear who's going to get the penalty. Have a look at Dean Hunt here. Big lock up, big lock up, bang.
Yeah, getting right into the side of Kurt Rosa there. And, well, unfortunately, the people behind them didn't have many places to go. It's a real shame to see, but sometimes that's a given. When a race starts at Phillip Island, everyone's close together, someone makes a small mistake, and many others get involved besides. Kuznetsov already on the pace, 1 minute 30.1, fastest lap of the race so far, as we're on board with P9, Jesse McMenamin, and that is quite wide there from Mike Pepper, but looks like he's actually taking the alternate line there. He may have gone a bit hot, but Southern Loop, you can double apex it and get a really good exit, as we just saw.
Yeah, you can. It's an interesting little corner, isn't it? There's a proper, more traditional double apex line, and then there's sort of a more modern line that's developed, isn't there? There's almost a new style of driving. We've seen the same thing in the real world at Simmons Plains in Tasmania, where there's a completely different line through the hairpin now to what there was 10 years ago. And I think that's sort of what's happened at Southern Loop, isn't it? It's real wide entry, and then you really late apex at almost more a go-kart style line to a traditional racing line where you double apex the corner.
Yeah, and I think that it all depends as well on the mechanical grip versus downforce of the cars. As it looks like Greg Levine had a bit of an issue at turn 4 there. Car still carrying damage from an earlier prang. That was on lap 1. These cars, they rely more on mechanical grip to make their speed, don't they? I mean, you compare it to the 911 RSR that these guys used to run. Penalty, meanwhile, for Dean Hunt. He's going to come in and serve that, and it'll put him a long way back. But I think that in the RSR, they would have run more of that, inside line the whole way through Southern Loop. But, it all depends on the driver's preference, doesn't it? That's a big problem for Mike Pepper, meanwhile, going way off.
Yeah, I think it's a corner, too, that you continually end up being frustrated at no matter how you drive it and how you handle it. So it's a very, very tough corner to get right. And it's a corner that you feel like every single time you do it, you could have done something slightly better. So, yeah, very, very difficult. And Mike Pepper will look back on this one and go, yeah, there's something I definitely could have done a lot better.
Yeah, and it looked like it happened to him on the direction change between turns 1 and 2. You basically got to straighten out the steering and get on the brakes, but if you still have a little bit of steering lock at the point you get onto the stop pedal, that unsettles the car, and you have to make adjustments. By that point, your trajectory is sealed. These are the conditions the drivers are racing in at the moment, and well, we talked about how hot the track was in practice before we went live, Jay. Actually looks like it's gone down a fair bit. Some clouds have come over the circuit, and it's started to cool down. That might offer the drivers a little bit more grip.
It's cooled about 4 or 5 degrees since the race started, which is a positive for the drivers, or most of the drivers that prefer the hot conditions and the skatey car and can drive it a bit better, probably aren't enjoying it as much because they've lost their edge. But yeah, I think for the most part everyone will be quite happy. Is Alexani looking up the inside of Alexander Newton? Couldn't quite get it done. Alex versus Alec. This is always an interesting battle.
Yes, and it is the battle for last position in the top 9. These guys quite a ways ahead of the battle for 12th position, which is between Mike Pepper and Jonathan Kiley. We'll check in with that battle later. That will be the battle for race 2 pole position. But through the hairpin they go, and at the moment it seems like Alex Newton has the traction sorted out in that number 32. Exit of Siberia. Yeah, you can see he's just jetting away from Alexani at the moment. It's all about getting traction, getting straight exits at this circuit.
Dean Hunt has been in and served his pit lane penalty as well, so that is done. We have to come back in for service in this race. Remembering races in this series are all time, so this first race, that's Ben Bray around.
Oh, it is. He was in P7,
and
unfortunately that is a spin around at MG for him. Looks like he just ran deep. Well, that's unfortunate, but he's still ahead of Trevor Leonard in the race running, so he will still get more points, but that is unfortunate there. Just a bit too late on the brakes and caught the grass, rear end swung around. That's all she wrote.
An interesting end to that incident though, really, wasn't it? As you see there, Kiley and Pepper side by side, Harvey and Rose side by side, Clint Harvey through. So the battle for 12th is starting to get a little bit more interesting now, because that is 12th position, was 12th position in Jonathan Kiley. Mike Pepper's now up into 12th, but you've got Clint Harvey coming and closing in on these guys relatively quickly too.
Yeah, that you do. This is turning into a very intriguing race, isn't it? As Trevor Leonard, I saw, he did run a little bit wide at the exit of turn 2, and he's starting to lose a bit of time himself. Pepper and Kiley closing in on him gradually. Remember, we're just about to come up to half race time, so this is the point of the race where drivers need to be in their rhythm and need to minimize mistakes.
It's a real precursor for the second race where you've got so much extra strategy involved. You've got a second set of tyres that you're going to have to use and cycle through temperature-wise. We know how hard these tyres are to get temperature into, so understanding, especially with the track conditions cooling, how to get tyre temperature can be very, very crucial. And I think for some drivers, they may focus a little bit too intently on having good outright pace in this first race and getting a good finishing position. Not necessarily as much in strategizing and understanding the car for race 2 as what they should. Maybe I'm overanalyzing that. Overthinking things.
I don't know. Well, it's kind of our job to do that, isn't it? Otherwise, we wouldn't have much to talk about, would we?
Very good point. This battle's closed up. Mike Holcroft's been very, very quick in closing in. Harry Dodds looks like he's starting to slow this group up a little.
I think that's the quickest mini commentator's curse I've ever seen, Jay, because I saw as soon as you said that, Holcroft had a big oversteer moment in the back of the frame.
I'm good.
Well, either way, this fight is indeed looking good as we make our way into the last 10 minutes of this race. At the moment, it seems like Harry Dodds has the advantage in terms of pace, but Holcroft, Pringle, Jewel, they're all pretty close on times. Pringle, meanwhile, running 2/10 faster on the last lap. Here, meanwhile, is the number 8.
Hunt. This race has gone from bad to worse.
Oh, no. And that's something you don't see often in those cars, is the oversteer moment through the second last corner, turning into a spin. I get the feeling that the drivers are definitely struggling for grip in the rears here with a relatively warm track.
Oh, I mean, he did clip the curb on the inside through turn 11, which you don't often do, so maybe that's just unsettled the car a tiny, tiny bit. Obviously, McMenamin's struggling to hold onto this position here from Alexander Newton.
Oh, no! There we go! Newton spearing across the track and back into McMenamin. Oh, no. Well, that's the danger of turns 1 and 2. If you're not fully clear of the car alongside and you're trying to hold your line coming through turn 1, that is the only way it's going to go. And unfortunately, McMenamin, I think, could retire from this one. He hasn't gotten that thing going again. He might be requesting a tow.
Got it beached. Yeah. There's a little bit of a gutter there, so he may have actually got the car beached and then stalled it. We'll get the replay right now, though, but I'm just watching off camera. He's trying his hardest to get out, but I don't think he's going to be able to get out of this. You see slight crossover. I think that could be on Newton, and then this is just unfortunate for Benjamin. Just one of those. Now I see why his car's not moving. That whole axle on the left-hand side is destroyed.
Yeah. Oh, man, you can see the angle of the left rear. No way. Yep, that's broken the differential. So McMenamin, it looks like, has been cleared. He is back in the pits now and has confirmed a retirement from this race. He will join Dean Hunt in not taking any further part in this first race. Oh, yeah.
Right-hand wheel is very damaged.
Yeah, not much of a surprise there. I mean, that was an incredibly heavy hit for Newton. Once he was on the grass, he just couldn't slow that thing down. So I think just a really unfortunate incident for both of those drivers. Fortunately, fast repair is enabled in this series, and looks like Newton can get right back out there.
He can. We go back to the battle for third. And as you said, commentator's curse I put on Mike Holcroft. He's now dropped a fair bit behind these 3. But Dodds still looks like he's holding this group up a little. He's not got the pace to match with Kuznetsov and Mazomo in front. And Jewel and Pringle look like they're a little bit more consistent on outright pace at the moment. But Dodds is doing enough to hold on.
Yeah, he's still holding on to a 7/10 gap over Anthony Jewel. Having said that, Jewel took 2/10 out of Dodds on the last lap, so he might be on a late charge here.
Very good point. Very good point. So we'll see how it plays out in the next little bit. I'm guessing you're just seeing there that's Dale Atkins limping the car back to the pits after a couple of spins on this lap. Hopefully he's A-okay, but he's had a couple of little moments.
Yeah, I don't think it's A-OK there because I just went back to look and he went very deep into MG and went head on into the tyre bundles at about 20 k's an hour. So that's definitely crumpled the front end somewhat.
Just seen it myself as well, so it's what's happened there. So not the welcome that Dale would have wanted to the series, but hey, we'll get the bad out of the way in the first race, and then the only way is up from here.
Yeah, very true. Well, he'll have a couple more opportunities to make up further places as we check back in here with Clint Harvey, who's trying desperately to hold on to a good position here. He's just ahead of Jonathan Kiley here and actually made that move
I'll show you
coming
why he
into
made
the first
move.
couple of
Look at
turns.
this. Look at this for Kiley. This is why the move's been made.
Oh, okay.
Now that is
Oh
something
my
you
goodness.
very rarely see at this track. And, yeah, I saw the overtake happen on my timing. I was like, okay, it's an overtake into turn one. Well, it is an overtake into turn one, but not in the way I was expecting that to happen.
No, I mean, that's literally the first time I've ever seen someone spin out of the final corner here. And I think that goes to show just how much the drivers are struggling for rear grip out there.
I've definitely seen cars hit that inside wall, but they've usually gone off and into the grass, and the grass has then shot them into the wall. So not in that manner that we just saw there for Jonathan Kiley. And guess what? He's just dropped to 13th position. Kurt Rosen now is P number 12 in that magical spot. And he looks like he could be safe for the moment in reverse grid pole because Kiley's got nothing in the car. He's just holding on now.
Yeah, you know, the only thing you can do at this point is just putter away and try and make your way to the end. Kiley at the moment, he enjoys a 9-second gap to David Hughes behind, so he can afford to just limp that thing home. On board, meanwhile, with Simon Mazzomo, no, sorry, my apologies, saw a flash of red and thought that was the back of Kuznetsov's car, but it is in fact Anthony Jewell chasing down Harry Dodds for P3, and well, at the moment, it's still a steady increase of pace from Jewell relative to Dodds. It looks like the gap was 0.3 between them in terms of lap time last time around.
The pace has been... Oh, here we go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, here's the look. It's not going to work, though. Bit of contact on the way through MG. Okay, then. Now the gloves are off. Now we have a true battle on our hands with Dodds trying desperately to hold on to that car as he nailed the apex of the final turn only just, and late apexes it for good measure, manages to get a bit of extra momentum. But it looks like Jewell has definitely showed his hand there.
Jewell's still faster though, look at that. 32.4, 32.6 for Dodds, so... Their lap pace is definitely showing that Dodds is holding up the car of Anthony Jewell right now.
Righto. Who will win the battle for P3 in race 1 at Phillip Island? Love seeing it. Just up ahead of them, you see that puff of smoke there? That was Simon Mazzomo having a lock up into MG as there's the move to the inside for Anthony Jewell. Gives him space on the outside, but unfortunately, it's all gone wrong. And Anthony Jewell will now fall back outside the top 5.
Get back to 6, and now with Alexani not too far behind. So he'll now have to work hard to try and get himself back into a top 5 position because Holdcroft is a fair way up the road. Wow, that's a little controversial, that one.
Yeah, so you don't want to see that. Unfortunately, it looks to me like... I mean, I wouldn't know how to call that incident because I saw that Jewell, probably assuming that that Dodds would yield, drove to the outside of the hairpin here, but Dodds, coming off the curb, actually went into Jewell here. You can see it right there. There was the little jerk to the right. That was Dodds getting off the curb and back onto the racing surface. I don't know how to call that incident. Is it more on Dodds or Jewell?
See, there were under a minute and a half to go, but no white flag from Barney, so we've still got 2 more laps of racing to go. Yeah, I don't know how to call that. I mean, sure, there was contact because Dodds moved back across to hit the car of Jewel, but where else is he supposed to go when the curb's no longer there? So
yeah,
it's
I
a tough
suppose
situation. Is he forced to slow down and give up the spot, or is he allowed to race for position? I don't know what the ruling will be.
and I suppose you could make the argument that that Jewel wasn't leaving enough space on the outside to begin with, because I saw the gap at the point of contact, and there wasn't enough room there for Dodds in any case. So, man, it's just again unfortunate as Jewel now falling outside the top 6. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a reasonable hit between the cars. He didn't hit any walls, but I think that might have done a number on some component as, oh my goodness, that is Nathaniel Coburn head on into the tyre bundles at Lukey Heights. The front end of that car is just about destroyed. Is he going to keep it going? White flag, meanwhile, for our race leader, Rick Kuznetsov, who is enjoying a 4.6 second gap to Simon Mazzomo under no pressure at all for the race win. It is still on here for P4 though. Harry Dodds is holding on to 3rd place, but Jackson Pringle and Mike Holcroft, they might just have a few things to say about their positions.
It's definitely not settled, is it? And I just noticed too, Anthony Jewell has lost another position. John O'Kiley's just lost a spot. He's had a spin down at MG. So
dear.
Anthony Jewell is going to struggle to finish this race. Is he going to hold on to a top 12 here?
Yeah, you never know. Could be a bit of a tactical move here to go slowly on the final lap and make sure that you finish in P12 for race 1 pole, but I don't know.
That's too risky, I reckon.
Yeah, it would be very risky, but Jewel is clearly slowing down here.
He might have an issue here, actually. Look, it's redlining in 3rd gear.
Is he stuck in 3rd?
I think he's stuck in 3rd.
I've never seen that kind of issue before, as that is...
I think he's got a shifter issue,
Trevor
personal shifter issue himself, like his wheels had an issue or a shifter or whatever.
Yeah, because as far as I know, gearbox issues like what might be there, not quite implemented in the sim, as Rick Kuznetsov takes victory in race 1. Back on top with Simon Mazzomo making it a 1-2 for 9-5 Sim Sports. Harry Dodds will cross the line in 3rd place. And then it looks like Jackson Pringle will just be able to hold off Michael Holcroft for the top 5. Meanwhile, Trevor Leonard is having a bit of an issue there. That's the number 28 of Anthony Jewell that's just gone past him.
Oh, he's got his shifter sorted, has he?
Yeah, apparently he has. And Jewell will finish in 11th spot. Leonard in 12th. I get the feeling they might have coordinated that.
Possibly. And again, it's a very risky thing to do, because if someone gets a penalty, it can very quickly turn against you. So
yes,
it's not always the smartest thing to do, but it works. It's just John O'Kiley still having issues with his car. We'll be looking forward to the back of this race.
Yeah, that he will. Man, there's quite a few drivers in this race that have had some issues in the midst of all of this. And they'll be hoping that the night concludes with an all-right result and a clean car. Though, seeing how this race has gone, remains to be seen how that will turn out. Results then from the first race here. Kuznetsov winning from Mazzomo by 5 seconds. Harry Dodds, Pringle, and Holcroft round out your top 5. Zani, Braya, Pepper, Harvey, and Rosa will round out the top 10.
Jewell and Leonard will start on the front row for race number 2 with Newton, Hughes, Kylie rounding out the drivers on the lead lap. Levine and Atkins did finish the race in 16th and 17th. Then we've got Coburn, McBenjamin, and Hunt rounding out our 20-car field for race number 1. It was pretty action-packed, wasn't it? There was a lot going on and lots to talk about, but I think the second race is going to be very, very interesting with the strategy that's to come.
Yeah, indeed. We've got that mandatory pit stop coming up, and I can't wait to see how the field is shuffled in the midst of that. Well, we're going to step aside very briefly here on SimSpeed TV. When we come back, it will be Race 2 here at Phillip Island to close out the night in the Southern Cross ESports Winter Series.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, the Southern Cross Esports Winter Series, the third last round here at Phillip Island. Big thanks to our series partners V8 Drive Day Perth, VRace Experience, Word of Mouth Signs, and Performance 4x4. This has been an interesting night so far. Plenty of drivers with some patchy performances. Can they get it together in this final race of the night? Twice as long, if not a few more minutes than that. And top 12 reverse grid plus a required pit stop. Reese Gardner here with Jay Kennedy alongside me. Well, Jay, we know from this series in the past how this second race usually goes. It's usually drivers choosing to pit within around about the 50% mark of the race, but a few laps either way can make all the difference.
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy to play out here. We've seen in races go by that it can be very, very different when you pit as to how the car performs. But I think what we saw last round might become a bit more of the standard with everyone pitting as late as possible. Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple, though, mix it up, because it did feel very, very much of the same for a lot of drivers out there last week. So I think we could see a little bit more openness and open strategy tonight. Cross we do, because it should provide a great race, which is about to start.
And it's going to be headed up by Trevor Leonard and Anthony Jewell, who coasted to the finish in race 1 and secured those top 2 places. Kurt Rosa is going to start in P3 behind them alongside Clint Harvey, who once again starts 4th. Hopefully he'll be able to have a better time of it here in race 2. Meanwhile, Mike Pepper and Ben Braja, the other championship protagonist, going to come off the 3rd row with Zani and Holcroft in 7th and 8th. 9th place will be Jackson Pringle, and Harry Dodds will round out the top 10.
There we go, back to our P1, P2 and pole and 2nd position from race 1. That's Mizomo and Kuznetsov. Go back to the drivers as they finished. Alex Newton and David Hughes, 13th. 14th, 15th will be John O'Kiley, the last driver to finish that first race on the lead lap. Got Greg Levine in 16th alongside him, Dale Atkins and Nathaniel Coburn 17th and 18th. Last 2 drivers we will have in the field for tonight. Jesse McMenamin, Dean Hunt, both will be looking for a bit of redemption in the Frog Leap Juice racing cars. Both had a shocker in race number 1.
Yeah, indeed. And a lot of it was down to the incidents that happened in the opening laps. With this being a longer race and with a pit stop to think about, the drivers might just take it a little bit easier in this one. Of course, the 20-minute sprint nature of the first race here means that drivers will tend to be a little bit more aggressive, but they have a bit more time to plan and think about their moves. They also can think about how the tyre change will benefit them depending on when they take it. Track is still pretty warm. It has dropped further in temperature. It's now at 38 degrees Celsius, which means that the drivers will be able to get a little bit more life out of the tyres before they start overheating, but I think it'll still be a factor.
Definitely will be a factor. Probably then goes to more of the pit later strategy, because the tyres will be a lot better at the end of the race. But the other part of that is too, cooler track means it's even harder to get tyre temperature. It then goes from being a simple strategy to difficult again. How do you tackle it? I'm glad I'm watching these races, because I don't know what I'd do strategy-wise. It's so difficult.
Yeah, it's something that I don't trouble myself with too much in my racing either. I just figure out, what's a good time to pit and just work on what's happening with people around me, and that's how I decide when to come in. I'm sure there's at least a few guys in this championship who take that same approach, and it tends to work out well for them. But what kind of strategy will we see from the top two here, Leonard and Jewel? Jewel, of course, qualifying a bit further up the field than Leonard for race one, so there is a pace difference between them. But how will they manage this, starting from the front? One more turn to go, and we can wait for the throwing down of the green flag. Pace car is in, and Trevor Leonard looks like is already going. That's a very early start there, the earliest I've seen in a while at Phillip Island on a rolling start. Green flag officially flies, and we are racing. And the top 10 are almost single file already. There is side-by-side between Mike Pepper and Alex Zani behind, and there's quite the battle going on between Dodds, Kuznetsov and Mazomo as they make their way out of turn one. Zani almost going off the circuit. Ben Braja, meanwhile, up behind Kurt Rosa. Harvey is right on the back of Leonard for second place. We might see Trev start dropping down the order here.
Potentially, we could. Jewel, as you said, taking the lead away. Ben Brayer up inside of Kurt Rosa. Harry Dodds, Mikey Holcroft still side by side. Kuznetsov and Mazomo and Holcroft, they all got very, very close into turn one. Lucky there wasn't a bit of contact there, so that's why I did catch my breath a little bit there. This is a little bit more messy in some aspects than race one, but we've made it through the old Honda hairpin, and now Miller corner. A lot smoother this time.
Yeah, without a major crash, and that's wide. Meanwhile, for Leonard, he's just lost P2 to Harvey, and he's trying to gain it back here on the way into MG. There was a slight bump between them in the braking zone, but Harvey with the inside line for the final turn gets it done. And now Ben gets up the inside of Trevor. The two championship protagonists now together, part of the same race squad. Leonard gets a slightly better exit. And this could be side by side into turn one, but he turns it into the bump draft on the way down the front straight here at Phillip Island. Who's going to win the race into turn one? It is going to be Ben Braja, but Leonard could fight back here. Brief side by side between Rosa and Zani. There goes Alec up the inside. Nicely done there at turn one.
Very, very nice move in the end there, wasn't it? Just got that done very, very easily. Very committed, but did it very, very well.
Yeah, nice clean move. Down into the hairpin. It looks like Jewel is gaining some pace on the rest of the field here. Look at the gap he's gotten already.
Big margin,
1.9 seconds.
Surprised he's pulled that so quickly. I mean, there is a little bit of fighting behind him. Remember, there was that side-by-side between Harvey and Leonard. That would have given a bit of ground as Leonard makes up some tractor mowing. I know Lamborghinis make tractors. I didn't think Porsches did.
Yeah, well, actually, Porsche did make a couple of tractors
iRacing
back
scandal.
then. Yes. Oh no, Kurt Rosa's off.
Oh,
yep. That is tyre McBundle for Kurt Rosa, and that is the front right quarter of the car in a very poor state. And I don't know if he's going to bring that right into the pits or wait until the pit window opens.
Just running
off
off
view
himself.
of it. Yeah, that's a shame. He was going a bit wide there to make space for another car, but he just went in too hot, and that's something that can easily happen at Lukey Heights. Oh, looks like he had an issue coming into the final corner, maybe? There's a lot of pace lost there down the start-finish straight. And now he ends up, unfortunately, down in P17. That's a lot of positions lost. I think he had a major off here.
Let him go wide.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? At that point of the circuit, once you run off the right-hand side of the road, you cannot get it back on because the track keeps turning left.
Yep. The more you turn, the further the track seems to go away from you. So he's done a good job to get it back on as quick as he did there. Oh, no, that's Dodds around.
Oh, all right. That's a Siberia. And, well, looks like he'll be able to get back onto the track nice and safely. But was that contact? He was in the vicinity of Rick Kuznetsov, and oh dear. Yeah, he has. Yeah, just lost the rear on the way in. I think a little bit late there. I tell you what, Kuznetsov was lucky. Dodds actually went into the back of him, but happened in such a way that Kuznetsov was able to keep going through the corner and not get spun around himself. This is the back-end view.
He's already sideways when he's got his foot on the brake, so he's outbroke himself. He's already sideways, and he's just had to tap the brake even harder to make sure he didn't make heavy contact into Kuznetsov there. So there's a couple of messy corners there for Harry Dodds. As up the inside goes Ben Breyer, and up into second.
All right, so things are looking good for Ben Breyer at the moment. Harvey, meanwhile, facing pressure from Alex Zani in the number 69. This is a great little pack here for second place, isn't it?
Fantastic battle pack. Goes all the way back to Kuznetsov in 6. So Breyer, Harvey, Zani, Leonard, Kuznetsov all together. Pepper and Pringle aren't too far behind as well.
Here comes Rick. Up the inside. And it looks like Trevor Leonard gave him just enough space to get that done. And Kuznetsov clears him by the time they get to the braking zone for Siberia. Almost contact between Kuznetsov and Zani, but again, just enough space given. They can keep racing cleanly. That's broken up the pack just a little bit. Breyer and Harvey now with a few cars length margin. But how long will that last with Kuznetsov's pace?
It'll be very interesting to see how this does play out over the next little bit. Pit window, of course, is open. So that'll increase the strategy to come.
Indeed it will. Plenty of strategy foibles to be negotiated, as that's a big slipstream there for Alex Zani. Try and round the outside of Clint Harvey into turn 1. That's not going to work, but
Pepper around the outside.
Oh, wow. Hello. Yeah, round he goes, and will he actually be able to get it done? No, the number 11 of Jackson Pringle, with a very aggressive entry, has managed to pull it up and keep the position. That opens up an opportunity for Simon Mazzomo to break into the top 8. But he's going to have to deal with the inside defense from Mike Pepper.
Oh, no.
And oh, dear. Oh, no. Well, something's gone wrong in that battle we were just looking at for P2. Alex Zani and Clint Harvey coming together on the way into Miller. And it looks to me like, as we go to the replay, it wasn't even that big of contact. It was just a little wiggle in the braking zone there, slight side-by-side contact, and they both just slid off.
They were both so committed to the corner there that it's made it a lot worse than it needed to be. What it does do, it gives Rick Kuznetsov 2 free spots. Something nobody wants in this series.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're Ben Breyer or Trevor Leonard. Oh no, it's John O'Kiley. He had a very rough race 1. It looks like race 2 isn't going much better.
Well, what's going on here? McMenamin coming to the pits early. It's just checked up Dean Hunt, Mikey Holcroft, and Harry Dodds there. So something's happened to Kylie, possibly he and McMenamin did something together. Remember, they're teammates too.
Well, actually, it looks to me like Kylie ran deep into Lukey Heights, and well, yeah, actually they did come together, and that was as Jonathan Kiley was trying to get back onto the racetrack. Here's what happened. So Kiley, he had to open the steering there, unfortunately, and then runs off the circuit. Now the car loses all of its grip. Here comes McMenamin, and Kiley tries his best to slow it down, but just doesn't work. Unfortunately, his teammate had to be the brakes there.
I see him slowing down and coming to the pits because he's got wheel damage and had to come in and get that car fixed.
Yep. Well, fortunately, the pit window is open, so he can get those repairs done and the service that is mandatory as well. Anthony Jewell still holding on to the lead of this race, but now it is a fight between he and Rick Kuznetsov for the race lead, and Kuznetsov is a solid 0.6 faster than Jewell on the previous lap. Dean Hunt, meanwhile, here, trying to work his way back into the top 10 here after some big issues in race 1. Ended up locking up into the corner, into turn 4 and getting a penalty for his troubles. Into the pits comes Harry Dodds, and he will join these two on screen at the moment. Alex Zani in, as well as Alexander Newton. These two were having a very nice battle in race 1 before it went somewhat wrong. All three of them will get up on the jacks and get those mandatory 4 tyres changed. It'll be interesting to see how their pace is affected in these first couple of laps. Jonathan Kiley comes in as well to get repairs done. Meanwhile, Simon Mazzomo trying to work his way up. And actually, hang on a minute. That's Anthony Jewell up ahead of him.
It is.
Jewell was the leader of the race.
Yeah, he was.
Need I remind you all?
What's happened to him?
Something that has resulted in him falling back. He went off at turn 2. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll get a look in on that. Unfortunate, because you get on the brakes just a tad too late, lose grip in the front, and the gravel trap is the only place you'll go. Well, in response to that, Jewell has come straight into the pits, so has Pringle, Mazzomo, Pepper, and Harvey. Big train of cars here. Raya and Leonard also in as well. That's 7 cars, sorry. Make that 8 with, 9 and 10. Holcroft, Rosa, and Coburn all coming in too. Looks like,
Kuznetsov, Hunt, and Levine, and Atkins, the only drivers that haven't been in the pits yet. This is the opposite of what we saw at Road America.
Yeah, I mean, I think, man, I don't really know how to make sense of it. Road America is a track with plenty of long straights. You don't spend much time actually turning. Phillip Island, you have the opposite problem. You're turning pretty much the whole way around the circuit and still carrying a lot of speed. So these guys might have been working through their tires incredibly quickly. They might be trying to get an undercut on the drivers that have not come into the lane yet, but really, their battling is with each other.
Yep. The other part of that is obviously the track temperature, knowing that it's cooling off a bit earlier, so it's easier. Get temperature into it. As Kuznetsov and Hunt, I've just noticed actually that's why we've actually got a safety car out on track. We missed that. There is a safety car that's been called.
Okay, it was not announced in the InSim text chat.
Yeah, we've missed that for that exact reason.
Yeah, usually we have InSim voice chat switched off, just for the sake of keeping our focus.
Why as well. David Hughes got beached at the exit of turn 2. That has brought out the safety car.
Oh dear. Well then.
That explains a lot.
Yep, certainly does. I was thinking, man, why is everyone pitting early? Well, there we go. It was just a spin on the exit of the turn, and unfortunately, instead of stopping it and engaging reverse, he ends up getting up on the embankment, and that car is going all kinds of nowhere.
Yep, you can't move once you're up there, but that makes life a little difficult. He was stuck there for a good while before the safety car was called. He's now been able to return his car to the pits, but he is day done.
All right, well, now this makes things interesting. Kuznetsov, yeah, there we go. Kuznetsov comes into the lane behind the safety car. But Dean Hunt and Greg Levine. Is Greg Levine coming in?
Greg Levine is coming in, yes.
Yes, okay, so the field...
It's just Dean Hunt that has not made a pit stop.
Yeah. Now, I question that because, once the race goes green again, Hunt's pretty much committed himself to falling down the order when he pits. It's usually much better to pit under safety car if you can. You lose less time relative to the rest of the field because everyone's traveling so much slower behind the safety car. He'll be pitting under green flag conditions.
Checking the pit stop times for everyone to make sure that everyone has made the correct pit stop.
And I mean...
That Menumin time doesn't look accurate. I think he might have had to drop and go back again. He's dropped a second time to make sure he could get his fast repair done, but everyone else looks good.
Yeah, looks like it. Jonathan Kiley coming in for a third time, meanwhile. Having all kinds of issues in the number 78. But, yeah, I'll amend the point I just made. I think that Kuznetsov, Levine, they're at a disadvantage as well. They came in after everyone had already made their pit stop and caught up to the safety car queue. Kuznetsov's come out in 16th spot, Levine in 17th. So now the issue is for Rick in the 888, will he be able to fight his way back up the field in the time that's left? Half an hour remaining in the race. It'll be pretty close to half an hour remaining when the safety car comes in. But I don't know if that's enough time to work your way through a field of Porsches.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out for Kuznetsov back in 16th position. Yeah, Dean Hunt, I'm not sure on this strategy call, but saying that, could be more to help out his teammates as well. We've got a couple of teammates up towards the pointy end.
This is true.
Seen a lot of strategy in regards to team strategies tonight, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Oh, David Hughes has just returned to the track and just looped it through Siberia. No. So this has gone from bad to worse for him.
It would have been pretty much a freshly repaired car there, and he's already put a big scrape on the right-hand side. That's a shame. Well, we'll have to turn our attention to racing in a few moments' time. The safety car has pulled away from the field. Nathan Allen will bring that Porsche Cayman back into the lane, and Dean Hunt will control this single-file restart. Everyone's going to bunch up behind him, try and get as close as they can. Question is, when does Hunt decide to go? Trevor Leonard went incredibly early on the initial race start. It looks like Hunt is waiting a little bit longer here until they get onto the straight. It will be up to Dean Hunt to determine when the start happens. Looks like he was just waiting until the last possible moment. That has slowed up everyone behind him, and that means that moves are already being made here by Mike Pepper, making his way past Simon Mazzomo and Jackson Pringle on the way into turn one, and Mazzomo and Pringle almost coming together through that turn, but they give each other just enough space and will continue on as the field streams its way through. Trevor Leonard wide on the exit of turn two. That has allowed Anthony Jewell up the inside, and tell you what, this has worked out really well for this duo here in the Racecraft Simulations team. They are back up the front, and they can keep fighting.
Oh, straight ahead there. That's Alexani who's gone straight ahead.
Yeah, and he is stopped in the escape road on the entrance to the Miller hairpin. He will get it going again, but a bit of damage, and oh goodness, that's big. Rick Kuznetsov has been given a black flag by race control. Now, I was going to say something about this when it happened, but I didn't want to say it in case I in case I got my rules wrong, but when Kuznetsov came into the pits, he actually went past the safety car.
I don't
think he's allowed to do that.
Excuse me. Yeah, I thought so too. I thought he did jump a little early and was a bit too far ahead of the safety car, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that that is why he's received a penalty. He's going to have to come in and serve a drive-through penalty. Already in 14th position. He's going to drop even further back down the field. This will hurt his attempt to win the championship despite missing a round.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, you do get drop rounds in this series, but that is a penalty that Kuznetsov could definitely have done without, as Anthony Jewell is into the lead of the race now. Dean Hunt back to second spot. And it looks like the race up the front is looking as clean as ever. But what changes will be made there in the battle between Clint Harvey and Mike Pepper, who come into frame now, defensive from Pepper in the number 15. He's going to keep his way to the inside, almost touching Clint Harvey, who has to give him space and has to yield that position once more. Side by side just behind them as well, Jackson Pringle and Michael Holcroft trying to stake their claim at the front of the battle for 8th place. Holcroft, with a poor exit, now finds himself monstered by Harry Dodds and Alexander Newton.
Harry Dodds has had a very good recovery, hasn't he? Considering what's happened in this race, he's had a very, very up and down night. But recovery at the moment looks good, although it almost ended in tears.
Yeah, when you're in the midst of a pack here, it's so difficult to pick your breaking point for MG. It's so tempting to get fully on the power, run wide on the exit of Lukey Heights and get the inside for MG, but you won't be able to slow down in time more often than not. Will Dodds be able to make his way past at turn 1 as Kuznetsov comes into the pits to serve his penalty? Side by side again between Harvey and Pringle this time. And looks like that was a lovely outside maneuver there by Jackson Pringle. Harvey now back a little bit further.
Great battle going on, isn't it? The whole way through the top half of the field. Kuznetsov rejoins the race in 17th position, 23 seconds behind the race leader.
Yeah, I don't see how that can be made up unless there's another safety car. Goodness me. Pringle and Harvey. Bit of a whack on the way through Miller, but they managed to keep it going. We're starting to come up now to half race time here. So this is when the aggression will start to pile on. This is when drivers will be starting to show their hand, as it were. Try and stake a claim to a position and really start fighting for it in the final few minutes of the race. A bit further back, Harry Dodds has picked up a little bit of damage to the front end, and Alex Newton is starting to round him up here, coming out of the final corner. What's the difference in straight line speed? Doesn't seem like much, but oh goodness, on the way down to turn 1, Holcroft trying to find his way past Harvey, not able to on the way into turn 1, and Harvey will protect the inside into turn 2. But I tell you what, Holcroft might just be sizing him up for a run out of the second corner here on the way down to Miller.
It's a little bit cheeky there from Clint Harvey. I like it, but it was cheeky. Yeah, did a good job to hold the spot. You're allowed to defend the position, but yeah, down the front straight, you don't often see those sort of defensive moves. And here comes Dodds involved now too, as just ahead. Pepper and Bray are side by side.
Yeah, these guys have been fighting over 5th place for a bit, haven't they? Finally gets it done, does Ben. And, well, now remains to be seen whether or not he can catch up to that front pack. It's Jewell, Hunt, Leonard, Mazzomo, your top 4. And they have a few seconds to spare. It might be a little bit less because Trevor Leonard's just run a tiny bit wide coming through Lukey Heights. Mazzomo almost fancied a move, but it just didn't happen.
Finally reached the halfway point in this race as well, Reece. We've still got half the race to go. We've still got another full race 1 plus 2 laps. This is going to be a fantastic finish to the race. This Holcroft has an issue. Oh, no.
Oh, no. It's on the way out of the penultimate corner there, and oh, okay. He has hit an invisible wall. That's
He's a long
unfortunate.
way off the track then.
Yeah, and ever more damage to the front end. All right, let's see how it worked out for him here. He was pressuring the back of Clint Harvey. But was this rear end contact?
Yes.
It was. Oh dear. That is Harry Dodds tagging him in the rear. And he almost recovered it, but of course the rear end of these Porsches acts like a pendulum with the engine at the back, so unfortunately not much he could have done to save it. As Kuznetsov, well, he may have gotten a penalty, but he is still the fastest man out there.
Yeah, he's still going to push on and try and get himself every single point he can. When you're racing for championships, we've said it many, many times before, it's not getting the points in the races you're going to win. It's about getting as many points as you can on the races that you can't win. So for now, he has to push harder than ever to get every single position he can now to try and win this race. Or to take something away from this race, I should say.
To come as close to winning this race as he can.
Yep. He can get himself back up to top 10. I think he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I think so too. He's currently in 16th spot. And the race lead is 21 seconds ahead of him. And Kuznetsov is wasting no time trying to fight his way through here. Just making up the position potentially on Greg Levine. Outside line through MG. And manages to get the inside for the penultimate corner. Levine can do...
Greg just holds
All
on
right. Only just.
Excuse me.
Levine will keep the position that he's in. That car is a lap down. I believe that was David Hughes that just made his way past him. Check back in on the battle up the front. Dean Hunt still in second spot, still hasn't taken his mandatory pit stop. And here comes Mazzomo. Oh, and Leonard. They make contact. And Leonard's around. Mazzomo will find his way through on the inside, but other drivers have to take avoiding action. Mike Pepper going to the outside of Trevor Leonard. And Dean Hunt off the circuit will come back on. I think he'll have to take his mandatory pit stop now.
Yeah, he almost has to, doesn't he? He's hurt himself in regards to strategy. Where did this contact come from? All from Leonard, who was looking probably more in the mirrors at Mazzomo than what was happening ahead, and may have been a little bit too late on the brakes.
Yeah, it almost seemed like that dive to the inside was a reaction to Mazzomo having a look, but obviously we can't read the drivers' minds. We don't know what's going on.
We don't have that technology
in
yet.
Their heads. Not yet. Could be a few years away, depending on you know, certain billionaires and their proclivities, but I honestly don't know at this stage. For now, we can only make educated assumptions. And of course, the assumption I made that Dean Hunt would come into the pits has proven true.
Most like you've watched a little bit of this racing stuff.
Yeah, only you know, every couple of weeks at least for the last 13 years. Longer even. I got into motorsport in 2006.
Battle at the front is getting a little close. 2 seconds. Jewel did pull a little bit of a gap, but I think on this lap alone was almost pulled in some ground. So this gap for the lead is not done. Anthony Jewell's had it a little bit easy since the restart, but I don't think it's going to be too easy come 10-minute mark of this race. I think he's going to have one, maybe two cars right on his tail.
Yeah, it's all about managing the pace from here for Anthony Jewell. Have to say, I think... okay, so Mazzomo's last lap was about 0.5 of a second slower than Anthony Jewell's last lap. But I think a big part of that was Mazzomo having to take avoiding action in the incident between Leonard and Hunt. Of course, Trevor Leonard grabbing himself a pit lane penalty for that maneuver. So that...
No real surprise.
Yeah, no real surprise, but it is going to give more of an advantage to Ben Breyer in the championship hunt.
Kuznetsov too.
Yeah, actually, Kuznetsov now ahead of Leonard in terms of race position will get more points from this race. So that might tighten up the championship battle even further.
Don't forget, Kuznetsov won the first race, so it definitely will change the championship complexion. Mazomo would be looking at the moment as a round winner because second in race 1, currently sits second in race 2. Looking for a very, very good result. And last lap by gained 0.6 of a second on Anthony Jewell. He's down to a second. This battle for the lead is on.
Yeah, Mazomo's gotten the pace right back, hasn't he? Took 0.6 out of Jewell on the last lap.
Ben Brayer's coming with him too. He's not as quick as Mazomo, but he's definitely quicker than Jewell. So if Jewell can defend this spot from Mazomo, Mazomo might have to watch in his mirror as opposed to watch in front.
Yeah, Breyer's last lap was in the vicinity of Mazomo's. 0.3 slower, but still faster than Anthony Jewell. So this top 3 battle is closing up. It's exactly what we like to see as we hit 16 minutes to go in race 2 at Phillip Island for this 6th round of Southern Cross ESports Winter Series. Across the line they come. Let's compare lap times once more. It's a 1 minute 31.8 from Anthony Jewell, 1:31.06 from Simon Mazomo.
Notable.
Have a look at that.
No, gee, I'm doing a great job of talking, aren't I? Noticeable difference. This cold is really starting to get to me as Mazomo runs off the track.
Oh no! That's a delayed commentator's curse there. We were just talking about how well he was doing. And he'll come out behind Clint Harvey and Harry Dodds and have to defend the position here from Mike Pepper. He's back down to 6th.
That was me saying congratulations on a potential round win for Simon Mazomo. That's all on me, and Mez will let me know about it too. So
yep,
I will pay for that one.
I think we should just. I think in future we should just be present and not talk about potential permutations until they actually come true. Because as things stand, I think that's what 4 times we've cursed a driver. Here's what happened to Mazomo again. Too hot into the second corner, locked the inside front, and just went straight on. Such a shame.
Very much a shame. It does happen when there's a lot of intensity in a race. It does get very heated, doesn't it? You see, the race battles are getting very, very hot. The whole way through this group, 3rd through 7th, all together. Kuznetsov is in 12th. He's only a second back from Jonathan Kiley and only 3 seconds back from Kurt Rosa in 10th. So he's not far off getting back into 10th. That is still going. Newton and McMenamin still going at it. They're in 8th and 9th. There's only 2.2 seconds between 1st and 2nd with Anthony Jewell and Ben Brayer, but Brayer is definitely quicker. So we've got battles all the way through the field that will be contested right till the death.
Exactly what we like to see, and I am loving this battle right now with Mazomo a part of this now, and with a clear pace advantage over all the drivers involved. He's going to be lobbing it up the inside as he just did into the Miller hairpin. Great move there on Harry Dodds, who I think saw him coming from a mile back, and with the damage he already had, decided to, oh no, Jesse McMenamin off at the very same corner. Seems like almost every lap we've had someone making a mistake. Are either of these guys going to make a mistake? Clint Harvey and Jackson Pringle have been inseparable since the last caution period. Looks like Harvey's just going to be holding back here through MG and will try a run down the start-finish straight. He doesn't just have to think about passing Pringle. He has to worry about being passed by Mazomo.
And often when you're in these sort of groups, being the second car in line is worse than being the lead car, because the lead car's only got to worry about what's happening behind, but the second car really has to worry about what's happening behind while they're trying to make that move in front. Much prefer to be in Mazomo's position than Harvey's in this current battle pack. Not quite close enough to get the move done, but you feel like Miller Corner is where it's going to all absolutely explode in this group. 12 minutes to go. I'm thinking that's 7, maybe 8 laps left of racing. Still plenty of action to go.
Plenty indeed. It actually looks like Jackson Pringle got a slightly better run out of turn 2 than Clint Harvey did. And Mazomo sent it from a long way back last lap, but he's not close enough to really get it done on Harvey here. As we check out the number 78 of Jonathan Kiley. And he just cannot catch a break tonight, can he?
No, he can't. It's not the only incident that's just happened as well. Pet Rosa, who was sitting in 8th, I think, or 9th. Or 10th because he had Rick Kuznetsov just behind him.
Just off the racing line where the rubber was. Can't afford to go too wide on the way into the second corner there. But Kurt has managed to recover and escape damage for the time being. He's just outside the top 10 with Alex Zani for company. And Clint Harvey now continuing to round up Jackson Pringle. They've got Dale Atkins ahead of them, who is a lap down. So they might have to worry about him for a second here. Atkins looks like, I mean, he did pull out of the racing line, but these guys are still too far behind him. That's interesting to see, though. Harvey dropping back from Pringle. Mazomo's right with him now. There's only a car length separating them, as that's Atkins locking up on the way into turn 2.
Oh, don't throw it up
Makes
there.
it easy for these guys. Oh, it's getting
Zorro
close.
thought about it, didn't he? He thought about throwing it up the inside and having a bit of a lunge there. I'm wondering if Harvey did drop off a little bit because he saw that lap traffic coming into play and maybe, hey, I'll just back off, let's get through the lap traffic and then we can go again. Sometimes the lap traffic can really change how you tackle a battle. Does play a little bit of an impact in these battles sometimes.
Oh,
Up the
no!
inside goes Mazomo. A little bit of contact, but they make it through.
That was
Mazomo checks out of it.
Yeah, a little bit of an optimistic move there from Mazomo, but good to see that both of them managed to keep it going. Mazomo will have to hope for another safety car at this rate if he wants to make up positions. Meanwhile, on the way into Siberia, Kurt Rosa and Alex Zani have traded spots here. Zani got it done very nicely at turn 1.
Did, but watch
Rosa,
this attempt back at turn 4 here.
Yeah, Rosa tried to fight back, didn't he? On the racing line.
It's too dark.
Very deep on the brakes. Yeah. Probably could have used the rubber. Slow down a bit further. There's Mazomo again on Clint Harvey, who once again is slow down the front straight. I think Harvey's having some trouble in the last couple of corners, considering that.
I think you might be right. His pace is dropping a little bit through the last segment of the lap. He's now look at the ground he's already lost. Actually, look at the ground that he's already lost to Mazomo. Now Mazomo is through, so Mazomo's now got to work hard to get back to Pringle to maybe steal third, but I can't see him closing up to Jewel or Breyer at the front.
Yeah, unless there's another safety car, and if there was, at this point, the race would almost finish under yellow as Kuznetsov gets into 8th place. Alex Newton running deep and into the grass and the gravel. Will he lose more positions from this? Doesn't look like it. There's Jesse McMenamin. Looks like Newton's just gotten away with that. Still solidly in the top 10 despite the issues that he has faced. Mazomo now on the attack. He's gotten back into a rhythm after passing Clint Harvey. At this very corner, MG, Harvey actually locked up on the last laps, and that might have played a part in the move. 727 of Nathaniel Coburn just catching the grass on the exit of the final turn, and that is some of the heaviest contact with the wall I've seen.
That was huge. I hadn't actually watched the end of that incident. I saw him hit the wall on the run wide, and come across the track, but I didn't see how hard he hit the wall. He's been given permission to tow his car back to the pit, so we'll stay green. No safety car, and it looks like we won't have any more safety cars for the rest of the night. Just confirming, no safety car.
Mazomo's off again. He locked up on the way into turn 2 for the second time this race. So now he's back into 7th.
We'll be thankful to never race this car at Phillip Island again, and have a look at who's just come past him. That's his teammate, Rick Kuznetsov, now up into 7th. We said a top 10 would be happy. Is there enough time for him to get a top 5? There's Pepper just there. Only 5 seconds. Pace he's got, he could get there. A couple of lockups, a little bit of a battle. He could easily get there.
Yeah, he could. I mean, with the way these guys are battling, and how a few of the battles have ended in unfortunate ways. Kuznetsov may still have that chance. We'll have to wait and see, though. Still got 7 minutes left in this race. We might have another lap besides. Oh, speaking of, Mike Pepper just ran really wide at MG. So he, Harry Dodds, and Clint Harvey well together at the moment. And Kuznetsov is looming in the distance.
That gap now. Remember when we first looked at it before when they were coming through Miller, it was 5.3 seconds. He's gained a second and a half in 9 corners. It's incredible. I'm sure that there was a mistake, but even still, Kuznetsov's pace isn't that good, is it?
I mean, considering what we saw from him at Road America, I think so. And his performance in qualifying too.
True.
Dodds and Harvey, meanwhile, there was an attempt, but Clint Harvey shutting the door.
Harvey's been very good in defence tonight. Very, very good.
Yeah, it's made his car the widest Porsche in the state of Victoria at the moment, and he's going to try and keep Harry Dodds behind him a few corners longer. Look at who it's bringing into the picture, Mike Pepper. He is right with them now with the time that they're losing going side by side.
And you know who this helps, this little battle? Rick Kuznetsov. He's not far away from these guys. If they continue to battle, they check each other up, they lose time. The only person gaining time with no one around him, it's Rick Kuznetsov. This is really hurting them. They need to be very, very careful to not slow each other up too much. Here comes Dodds, but he's not in the right place at the right time. Big lock-up.
Yeah. And just a slight bit of contact with Clint Harvey as well. On the way into MG. And oh, there's a little bit of oversteer on the exit as well. Tell you what, the amount of oversteer I've seen in these cars, I think it's any wonder that we haven't had even more crashes than we've already seen here tonight. Harvey will be on the defensive here into the first corner. Dodds, despite the damage, still with a slight straight line speed advantage. And he's making up more ground here through the first couple of turns. He's going to try and get the over-under here, I think, on the exit of turn 2, but he's got to keep an eye out for his Frog Leap Juice teammate Mike Pepper behind, who's looking to take advantage of this battle.
And Kuznetsov now 1.6 seconds behind Mike Pepper. Another 2 seconds on that previous lap. That's a huge lock-up.
Yeah, Harvey, he's cranked on all of the steering lock he can to make it through the hairpin, and he's still defending from Mike Pepper. And Pepper will try and get past him here. They both slow each other up, and this is exactly what Rick Kuznetsov would have wanted. Look at him. He's right with them now. He's boxed in, though. Can't find a way through in Hayshed. But will there be a chance at MG? Kuznetsov is so fast right now. He was 1.3 seconds faster than Mike Pepper on the last lap. And this could be the move here into MG. Barely a hint of a lockup from Kuznetsov at all. Oh, but he does get muscled out offline by Mike Pepper and has to deal with a big helping of oversteer. That was awesome.
How did he save that?
Good question.
I actually legitimately don't know how he saved that. He should have ended up in the wall. He had such opposite lock through turn 11. Here comes Pepper back on Harvey, and Harvey defends again.
God.
That was a little bit cheeky that time, though.
It was, but I think... Oh, dear.
Oh, that's cheeky.
Dear. Yeah, that's Pepper off with a bit of contact from Kuznetsov, who goes through on Harvey as well on the exit of the turn. I think Kuznetsov has just thrown caution to the wind and is just muscling his way through any way he can.
He might need to be careful, though. Get a penalty for that one.
He could. But the fight between Harvey and Pepper, I should point out, Harvey, yeah, there was some space on the right-hand side, but probably not enough for Pepper to fit in even before Harvey really got on the defensive. We'll have to wait and see if Race Control makes any decisions about those happenings. But for now, this is the state of the race lead right now. Ben Breyer, he is quicker by over a second than Anthony Jewell, who runs wide in the penultimate corner.
Jewell's starting to struggle a little bit. We'll quickly look at this before that battle gets down to 1 second.
Yeah, a little bit of a biff.
Yeah.
That unsettled the car.
Another one of those ones that we're glad to be in the commentator's seat and not in race control.
Yeah, we can shout and gawk. Oh, Breyer! Breyer's off the track at turn 1. Easy does it, getting back on. Oh! Ah, Jackson Pringle, he was running so strong in third, but through no fault of his own, out into the gravel trap. And he'll fall outside the top 6, potentially even the top 7. That promotes Harry Dodds to P3. Kuznetsov up to P4.
Oh, have a look at how broken Jackson Pringle's car is.
Oh, that's heartbreaking for Jackson Pringle. He was dead set on a solid 3rd place. Unfortunately, the nature of the first 2 turns here at Phillip Island claims another victim.
Anthony Jewell will be quite happy about that because he was really struggling to bring this car home, but now got a bit more breathing room. But Ben Breyer, even with that incident, he's still gaining time back. It was out to 2.5 seconds. It's now back down in 1.7, and it's still closing again. So Ben Breyer is still not out of this. Anthony Jewell's just holding on here.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a white flag this time by, I think. With 25 seconds remaining, there it is. Barney doing his job. Most hard-working employee at iRacing there.
Tell you what, he must do a good job
down
with watches and time synchronization because he's always got the time right, doesn't he? How many watches does that man wear?
He's probably got them going all the way up to his elbow at this stage. Alerts on an Apple Watch or something like that. Side by side, meanwhile, Mazzomo getting past Clint Harvey and back into the top 5, so salvaging something from this race. Slight technical issue for Ben Breyer there. Lock up for Anthony Jewell, and he goes wide. Breyer sees the door open and walks straight through.
And Breyer into the lead. Now, is this strategic from the teammates as well? Has this been a strategy call to help Ben Breyer with the championship? Has this been all about getting Ben Breyer into the championship lead after this race, getting as many points as possible? This is very, very interesting.
Yeah, Jewell's backing off.
Yeah, I think Jewell might be short on fuel. That's my concern here, because Harry Dodds has closed in real quick.
So is Mazzomo.
Well, Kuznetsov...
Oh, no, Kuznetsov. My apologies.
Jewell's out of fuel.
Oh, he is. Falling outside the top 3. Kuznetsov back onto the podium. Could get one more position here versus Harry Dodds.
He's not going to make it home.
No! Ah, that's a real shame for Anthony Jewell, but the big beneficiary is the number 5 of Ben Breyer. We thought it was all over for him just a couple of laps ago, but race win in race 2 will go to Ben, and Dodds will just hold off Kuznetsov for second.
Mazzomo's out of fuel.
Oh, no. Okay, so that's 2 drivers out of fuel. Are there going to be more?
Jackson Pringle's slow as well. Alexander Newton slow.
I think there's been some
out of fuel. So remember when everyone pitted under the safety car?
Yeah, some big fuel miscalculations.
Yeah, I think some guys may have gone a bit too hard on the fuel. Mazzomo crosses the line in 7th in the end. Alexani, I don't think he's going to make it around either. Could confirm Anthony Jewell did not cross the finish line. He had to escape, so he will be classified as the first car 1 lap down. That will be P17.
After doing such a good job in the race lead for all that time, you have to feel for Anthony Jewell and also feel for the number 69 here of Alexani. I mean, it looks like he will just make it to the line. He's helped by the fact that this section of the straight is downhill, but he's still going to lose spots here. Nathaniel Coburn a lap down. That won't be a position loss, but unfortunately, Dean Hunt will go by. John O'Kiley, meanwhile.
Will he get in? I think he will.
No, he won't. Zani's just crossed the line. Well, there we go. Those are all of the finishers to the line here at Phillip Island in race 2. We can check out those results in detail. Braja, meanwhile, well, I think that's been the haul of points that he needed in his championship fight, 7th and a 1st. That's a good haul of points from this one. But Harry Dodds, I think the most consistent finisher outside of Rick Kuznetsov and potentially Mike Pepper as well. Dodds getting 3rd and 2nd. It's a win and a 3rd place for Rick Kuznetsov.
It's a very interesting looking championship points scenario as well, Reese. I'll show you in just a second, but yeah, this race has definitely changed the complexion of how the championship's going to play out. And I think we've got our first driver in for a chat.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. We're going to bring Harry Dodds in for a quick talk. Congratulations, Harry, on a double podium at Phillip Island. Certainly didn't come easy.
No, it certainly did not. Yeah, I had to work my way back through the field after the first off at after trying to follow Rick through the field. But yeah, it was nevertheless a really good drive.
Yeah, you must be happy with that. Perhaps one of the most consistent finishers out there in a round that definitely seemed was defined by big incidents and crashes.
No, without a doubt, it was. This track's definitely not the easiest one to get around with the amount that was going on. It's all about high speed load on that front tire, and yeah, I felt actually pretty lucky to get to the end there with Rick breathing down my neck. But yeah, he was really fast at the end. I was fuel saving towards the end.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of drivers were fuel saving at the end there. Was it a case of you running into the max allowed amount in the fuel tank, or just under calculating?
Well, when that safety car got called out, I just pitted straight away because I was just coming down MG when it was called, and that sort of made me like, yep, I'm taking the gamble. So that's where I sort of got it really. Got the call to go in the pits.
Well, either way, you come out of this one with an excellent haul of points indeed, and you're up to P7 in the championship now, so congratulations from us. Is there anyone you'd like to thank for your results tonight?
Yeah, first off, thanks to the team there, also to you guys for putting on a great broadcast, our sponsors, Racecraft Simulations, Juiced Energy, not All Ports Gaming, what have we got here also? Sorry, I want to pull up the thing again. Give me a second. Yeah, so let me read it again. Racecraft Simulations, Juiced Energy, simrigs.com, and Eddie's Pet Store Company.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Harry Dodds. Hopefully we get another chance to talk to you soon. We'll bring in our second race winner here, Ben Breyer, meanwhile, and the number 5. Almost went completely wrong for you at the end there, Ben.
Yeah, it definitely did go completely wrong for me. I got a little bit keen through the first corner, got into the dirt. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm going to get a penalty for that one. So, it's a bit unfortunate. So it is what it is. Take it on the chin, come back next round, see what I can do.
Indeed, it's still a haul of points that you can be happy with out of this round. It certainly was difficult for anyone to find consistency out there.
Yeah, definitely the heat was a big factor for you to play, just because the tyres were getting really cooked extremely quickly. High levels of wear, really high temperatures, and it just really, we all struggled to find our pace and just settle down. So we did our best.
And that you did, and coming away with at least crossing the line in first place after, unfortunately, Anthony Jewell ran out of fuel. Well, at the moment, you are in the lead of the championship, points and penalties potentially notwithstanding. So things are looking good coming into the next round thus far.
Yeah, hopefully I don't get a penalty, and we'll see if I can be in the lead. But like I said, I'll come back harder and we'll try to have a good battle out at the end of the rip. But man, he's too quick for us all. So let's see what we do.
Indeed, we will. Well, Ben, is there anyone you'd like to thank for your results tonight?
Yeah, I'd love to thank Racecraft Simulations for highlighting us with good to win the races. as well as turning apparel for doing all our liveries and making the cars look mint.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. That's Ben Brayer there, your winner of Race 2. And to round things off, we'll chat to the winner of Race 1, Rick Kuznetsov. Well, Rick, that was an eventful night for you, at least in terms of the second race. Can you just take us through what happened to you under the safety car there?
Yeah, I thought you couldn't put enough fuel in the car to go to the end, so I was like, might not pit and pit later on. And then doing the extra lap, I was like, oh, maybe we should pit because everyone else was pitting. But yeah, bit of a disaster, to be honest. Then I got a drive-through, so it made it very eventful, sure.
Yeah, definitely had your work cut out for you fighting your way through the field there at the end. Definitely seemed like you had another level of pace compared to most other drivers out there today. What do you think was the secret to that?
Phillip Island's one of my best tracks in terms of pace, so I think the Porsche Cup and Phillip Island was a great combo for me, so yeah, I think that's the reason.
Well, either way, it looked with that penalty like you would fall outside of the run for the championship, but you're actually elevated to second spot there with poor results for Trevor Leonard and your teammate Simon Mazzomo as well. You're only 23 points behind Ben Brayer, so the championship is still in your sights.
I got a bit worried when I had that drive through. I was like, oh, I think I threw the championship away, but yeah, I'm pretty stoked to be able to come back and still be in championship fight.
Well, hopefully we'll get another chance to chat to you when we race at Spa in 3 weeks' time. Anyone you'd like to thank for your results tonight, Rick?
Yeah, big thank you to Simon, Racecraft Simulations, Tony Race Imperial, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears, and 95 Sim Sport for the support.
Well, there we are. Rick Kuznetsov up into second place in the championship with a double podium in this event, despite all the issues he faced in race 2, Jay. We go to Spa for the next round. It's from one excellent track to another. I'm looking forward to it.
100%. Brilliant track next round. It's 6th of September for the next round at Spa. And if the action's half as exciting as what we've had tonight, we're in for another fantastic one. This series just delivers each round. I sort of wish it wasn't 3 weeks apart because it feels like it's so long between races, but same breath, it gives us a chance to unwind a little bit before there's so much action coming up for the next round.
Yeah, it just comes thick and fast in the series put on by Southern Cross ESports. Well, we want to thank the crew at Southern Cross for setting this series up and bringing us on to broadcast the races. Thanks, of course, to the series sponsors, V8 Drive Day Perth, VRace Experience, Word of Mouth Signs, and Performance 4x4. I'm Reese Gardner, Jay Kennedy with me in the comms box and directing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, you guys and girls and non-binary pals out there. We will see you next time on SimSpeed TV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.